This one's a slightly more detailed model in that if I go to my plan views, you can see that there are internal walls here. And again, I've copied this from the architect's model, only the elements that I need. Elements such as railings and all the other, furniture and all of that. I decided, I just didn't want, I don't want to make it a complex model. So I've only copied elements that I want for my analysis. And if you paid attention to the previous example, we only defined spaces for retail because there were no internal walls on the residential units. But now that we have internal walls, I can get into a lot more detail. I can specifically assign space type for each of the rooms. After I created spaces for each room in each of the levels, I can basically mimic the room name and number to exactly match what the architect's room name and number is if they have those defined in their model. So all I need to do after defining the spaces would be to click on space naming, and it has names and numbers, names only, numbers only. So you can specify what you want to match with the architect's file. And since I wanted to map it exactly for all the levels, I can just select all levels and I can kind of go from there. And once I've done that, it's just a matter of a few seconds, and it automatically renames the space numbers to the architect's room naming convention. Once I have that sorted out, I can basically have created a space schedule. So it's much easier for me to control the spaces through the space schedule. All I have created is I've selected a bunch of fields just to see that I'm matching the room name and number exactly. I've included those parameters as well, specified space type, whether the space is going to be occupiable or not. For example, you have bathrooms. If there were closets, I would make those unoccupiable as well. Number of people, what the condition type is going to be. So here are a few parameters that I've created for my space schedule. And I can, as you can see, for restrooms, I've unchecked that option for occupancy. And then I've also set the condition type as unconditioned. It's not going to require any conditioning for those rooms. And I've also sort of assigned space types individually. As you can see, depending on what it is, I've set the bedroom type. And as I said before, you can always modify the parameters and kind of go from there. So once I have those defined, just like before, what I've basically gone ahead and done is I've created system zones. If I go to my system browser, now you can see that I have kind of divided this building to east and west because I know that it's a 2-bedroom apartment. What I need to do next is basically assign a water source heat pump to the east side and then another water source heat pump to the west side. So there's enough sufficient heating and cooling provided to these units. So as I said before, either it can be a line or you can just define, it doesn't necessarily have to be a straight line. It can also create a rectangle as long as the system zone line is passing through the area. It should work. And always make sure that zone equipment needs to be defined for the analysis to be run correctly. So if I had just created spaces and had an empty zone, if I had a water loop with no system defined, you can see that there's a warning symbol that kind of comes with it. So that means that I haven't assigned a zone equipment. So in that scenario, the analysis is going to fail to run. So make sure that you don't see any of that warning symbol in your system browser before you run the analysis. So just like before, once you have everything defined, you just have to create an energy model. And once that's done, you run the systems analysis. So I've done that already here. So if I've done a bunch of analysis runs. If If I look at this one, I've created one for annual building energy simulation. So you can see that the cooling loads are the highest. Then the next one is going to be your interior light. So you have a bunch of charts that come with it. You can take a look at the monthly overview, and also you get a detailed report. It's basically using Energy Plus as a simulation engine, and you can see in your report you have all the results for the entire facility. You can see what the energy uses. So as you can see, it's run over the entire year, and this is basically what your for conditioned building, this is what your energy use is going to be. And I can also go to my table of contents, and you see a bunch of different options, results that you can take a look at. And once I've done the annual building, I've also done the HVAC system loads and sizing. So if I look at that, you can see basically if I scroll down to the table of contents, you have I can basically go to my HVAC sizing summary. So it gives me what the zone sensible cooling is for the entire facility. If I want to look back again here, I can also take a look at the zone component load summary. So per zone, I can see what the requirements are going to be to size my equipment. So depending on this, I can, you would do the equipment selection just so it is sized appropriately. You're not oversizing your equipment. If I go to zone component load summary, you can see for the zone 101E, these are the cooling peak load components, and you can also see what the grand total is going to be for that zone. And you can see the cooling peak conditions, engineering checks for cooling, and you have it gives a much detailed report once you've run your analysis. So HVAC system loads and sizing basically takes a look at the whole year of typical climate data, but it only looks at the peak conditions, whereas the annual building energy simulation, it's the full annual simulation at sub-hourly time steps, and since it's annual, the peaks are inherently included in it.